The hospital always felt different after dark. Corridors that bustled with motion during the day became endless tunnels of muted greenish light. The walls seemed to press in closer under the hum of fluorescent bulbs. At the nurse's station, Anna organized the patient charts with practiced care, glancing at the clock overhead. Midnight shift. Outside the windows, the world was just a black sheet, broken only by the orange flicker of distant traffic lights. Anna took comfort in the routine. Vital checks, medicine rounds, quick steps echoing on polished linoleum floors. There was a quiet predictability to her nights, a rhythm that kept exhaustion at bay just long enough for sunrise. Anna had learned to live with the hush of sleeping wards and the steady hiss of oxygen from closed doors. Her uniform was always a little too loose, her shoes always a little too tight. Each night, she reminded herself to focus on the living, the patients who needed warmth, reassurance, or a careful hand in the middle of their darkest hours. Most nights, Anna liked the solitude, the way the world seemed to slow down and shrink to the glow of her flashlight. She'd tell herself that nothing truly bad ever happened in hospitals at night, but lately she felt the silence swell, deeper and heavier, as if something else moved in the shadows just beyond the reach of her steady, sensible routines. The first time it happened, Anna was logging patient notes at the nurse's station. A shrill ding cut through the calm, jolting her out of her steady flow. The call board above her head blinked bright red. Room 209. She frowned. That room, she remembered, wasn't assigned tonight. No one was checked in, and it was supposed to be dark and empty. Still, the call button for 209 blinked insistently, its robotic chime echoing through the quiet like a question. Hesitation prickled at the back of her neck, but routine told her to respond. Anna collected her flashlight, told herself it was just a stuck button, and started down the long hallway. Each step toward room 209 felt heavier than the last. The corridor widened and warped, the old waxed tiles reflecting her shadow in wavering shapes. When she reached the door, the light inside was dim, untouched since housekeeping had finished hours before. The silence pressed in again. No coughs, no shuffling, just the faint hiss of air through the vents. Anna pressed her hand to the door, heart fluttering in her chest. She opened it and flicked on the light, expecting perhaps a forgotten supply cart or some mundane mistake. But the room was empty. The sheets on the bed were still tucked tight, the chair by the window pushed neatly against the wall. The call button, however, glowed stubbornly at the bedside, waiting for a response. Anna paused on the threshold, her pulse loud in her ears. The room held a cold, untouched stillness, different from the warmth of occupied rooms. She swept her flashlight over the bed, blanket tucked with hospital corner precision, pillow flat and unused. The monitor displays were dark, machines unplugged and silent. Dust motes floated through the shaft of her light, undisturbed. Anna crossed to the bedside and checked the call button, pressing it once as if to clear a phantom error. Nothing changed. The small red bulb held steady. She glanced at the door, half expecting to see someone, another nurse, a lost patient. But the hallway was bare. Back at the nurse's station, Anna pulled up the room roster on her screen. No patient assigned, no medications, no chart, not even a cleaning request on file for 209. She scrolled through the notes, rechecked the assignment list. Her hands felt cold and clumsy on the keyboard. She thought of calling maintenance, but it seemed silly, just an electrical glitch. She marked the event in the log, gave herself a quick shake, and exhaled. Electronic systems could be faulty, she reasoned. Still, as she looked down the shadowed hall at the shut door of room 209, Anna couldn't shake the faint, nagging unease that something had quietly shifted within the hospital's careful order. The next few nights, oddities began to slip quietly into Anna's shifts. Soft, rhythmic taps echoed from the hallway outside room 209, even when she stood alone. She heard the gentle creak of someone shifting in bed, muffled breaths, the faint rustle of sheets, all from the room she knew was empty. Each time the call button blared its electronic summons, Anna would check on 209 and find everything the same. Untouched bed, cooled air, undisturbed silence. The button's red light became a nightly fixture, as sure as the passing of hours and the hush of the ward. Sometimes when she returned to the nurse's station, she'd look back and catch a flicker of shadow slipping across the crack beneath the closed door. These incidents grew bolder. On her rounds, Anna began to notice changes. A cup of water left on the bedside table, with a thin ring of condensation. A single blanket edge pulled loose. The scent of antiseptic mixing with a sharp, cold trace of something far less familiar. Still, every record, every log, and every list insisted that room 209 should remain empty, locked in a state of careful waiting. Anna would sometimes linger outside the door, listening beyond the thick wooden panel for the impossible sounds she now recognized all too well. With each passing night, a heavy dread settled over her, tightening with every unexplained detail, until she wondered if she was imagining the slow unraveling of order in this once predictable place. On her break, Anna tried to share what she'd been noticing. She leaned in close at the staff table, her voice quiet, explaining the strange sounds and the constant call button from the empty room. Her fellow nurses listened at first, smiling with tired patience. Someone joked about old wiring and overactive imaginations. Another shrugged and said the building was just settling. A few nodded, polite but disinterested, eager to return to their own routines. Anna pushed for details. Did anyone else hear odd noises or see things shift in 209? The others shook their heads, some with sympathy, others with skepticism. To them, it was nothing more than a stubborn button or the weight of too many long nights. Later, as Anna returned to her duties, the doubt from her colleagues began to eat at her confidence. She watched them make their rounds, unconcerned, their laughter echoing down polished corridors. She wondered if she should try harder to convince them or simply let it go. The sense of isolation deepened. Anna pulled her sweater tighter, feeling suddenly conspicuous, almost foolish. Still, each time she sat at her station and the light for 209 blinked to life, the uneasy certainty remained. She was not imagining things. Whatever was happening in that room, Anna was sure it was real, and she was alone in witnessing it. As Anna walked the hall, near room 209, the air seemed to thicken around her. Each footstep echoed too loudly, making the empty corridor feel crowded, as if shadows pressed closer with every step. The back of her neck prickled, with a sense that someone's eyes followed her movements. She would pause, glance over her shoulder, and see only the stark, pale walls and the gentle reflection of her own outline in the window glass. Still, the feeling wouldn't leave. It hovered each time she passed 209, growing more intense with every shift. Sometimes, Anna caught herself holding her breath at the door, her hand unconsciously tightening around the flashlight, waiting for something to announce itself from the silent room. There was a moment, near the end of a long round, when Anna thought she saw a flash of movement at the edge of her vision, a shadow pulling back just as she turned. She stopped, her heart pounding, staring at the thin gap under the door where a faint line of light had appeared and vanished almost instantly. It made no sense. The lights should be off in 209. But each time Anna tried to brush off the anxiety, it returned with more weight, as if whatever lurked behind that closed door was growing bolder, more aware of her presence. The hospital's silence grew hostile, thickening with unspoken threat. Anna felt watched, measured, and quietly tested by something she could not see. Some nights, the call button for room 209 rang with an urgency Anna couldn't ignore. The pattern shifted, impossible to predict. Sometimes it was a single jarring buzz, slicing through the quiet around 2 a.m. Other times, the button would erupt in frantic bursts, 3, then 5 in a row, never at the same hour, as if testing her patience or attention. Anna began to keep a notebook in her pocket, jotting down each activation, hoping to find a reason. But the calls came in no order she recognized. Each time she rose from her seat, her body tense with tired resolve, ready once more for the empty room she could no longer explain away. Each return to the nurse's station brought relief that lasted only minutes, until the next shrill ring shattered the uneasy calm. The board would light up red, 209 demanding her attention in a way that felt almost personal. Sometimes, the bell stopped the moment she neared the door, as though whatever was inside sensed her approach. Other times, the ringing continued, relentless, echoing through the hallway long after Anna stood within the silent, untouched space. Night after night, the hospital's peaceful routine broke apart under a series of unpredictable alarms, each one making her more certain that some strange presence waited, just out of reach, behind the door of room 209. Sleep became something Anna chased but never caught. The exhaustion crept in quietly at first, then settled like a heavy cloak over her shoulders. She found herself staring at her notes and forgetting what she had just written, losing track of time as the hours dragged themselves across the waxed floors. Sometimes Anna caught her own reflection in a medicine cabinet, eyes rimmed with shadows, hair falling loose, and wondered if she might be coming down with something. The world outside the hospital lost its color and shape, shrinking down to these endless humming corridors, and the steady, invisible pulse of room 209. Every time fatigue closed in, her mind filled the silence with imagined answers and half-remembered fears. Soon, Anna struggled to separate her thoughts from reality. She grew suspicious of the gentle murmur of voices from other rooms and the patterns the ceiling tiles made above her. She couldn't recall if she had eaten, or what her last meal had been. Memories slipped and overlapped, her mind foggy with questions that never quite left her alone. Sometimes Anna heard the call button ring when it hadn't. Sometimes, in the briefest moments between sleep and waking, she was certain someone had whispered her name. Through it all, the uncertainty of the empty room gnawed at her, leaving her doubting not only the hospital's order, but her own. One night, Anna stepped into room 209 and immediately sensed something different. The air felt colder, sharp and biting against her skin. On the bedside table, a single cup of water sat, its surface trembling, as if disturbed by a faint, unseen movement. Anna hadn't left it there. She noticed the corner of the bedsheet pulled loose, a wrinkle running down its length, details she remembered fixing less than an hour before. The chair by the window had shifted, angled slightly toward the door. These were little things, easy to miss, but together they built a quiet, rising sense of dread. Anna's eyes swept the corners of the room, her breath hitching with the sense that she was not alone. Each night, the evidence grew more concrete. A faint handprint smudged the glass of the window, too high for any of the cleaning staff. The dry, clinical scent of the room sometimes held a new note, a hint of something metallic, old and cold. The bathroom light, always left off, would flicker softly when Anna stepped inside, and once she found the bed warmed by a presence that should not have been there. Anna recorded each incident in her notebook, hands trembling in the fluorescent light. These signs, subtle yet impossible to ignore, dissolved all comfort. The mystery was no longer something Anna could explain away. It had woven itself into the fabric of her nightly rounds, making each return to room 209 more unsettling than the last. After a week of relentless ringing, Anna finally called maintenance. A tired electrician arrived just after midnight, toolbox in hand. Together they walked to room 209, the heavy silence thick between them. He unscrewed the panel behind the call button, checking wires and switches with careful fingers. Anna hovered nearby, arms folded, watching the process like a lifeline. The electrician traced each wire, showing her there were no loose connections or broken circuits. For good measure, he disconnected power to the button completely. "There," he said, forcing a reassuring smile. "Shouldn't bother you again." Anna thanked him, feeling awkward relief, but a knot of worry still tugged at her as she watched him disappear down the hall. But the silence didn't last. That very night, as Anna documented her rounds, the sharp ring pierced the quiet once more. She froze, her eyes jumping to the board overhead. Room 209, blinking red. Anna hurried back to the room, her steps rushed and uncertain. Inside, the panel was still open, wires hanging loose, no power flowing. Yet the light on the button glowed bright, ready to be answered. Anna stepped back, fear blossoming higher. If the system was dead, something else was making the call. The certainty of wires and logic no longer offered comfort. In the empty glow of 209, Anna realized she had crossed a line from reason into the unexplainable. Anna tried to rest during her breaks, but sleep no longer brought comfort. Each time her eyelids grew heavy, she slipped into uneasy dreams that always circled back to room 209. In her dreams, she walked the hallways over and over, drawn toward the closed door by a voice that whispered her name, soft but urgent. Sometimes she dreamed she entered the room to find a patient in the bed, face turned away, an arm reaching out as if for help. Other nights, Anna watched herself from the corner, unable to move or speak as shadows spilled from behind the curtains, filling the space between her and the bed with cold, stifling darkness. The dream stayed with her long after she woke, leaving her tense and restless. Tiny details from the dreams bled into her waking thoughts, a persistent echo of that whisper, the feel of unseen hands pressing down on her shoulders, the suffocating fear she felt every time she stood inside the threshold of 209. For the first time, Anna began to dread even closing her eyes. The thick curtain between sleep and waking had thinned, letting some part of the empty room slip into her mind, haunting her both day and night. The mystery of 209 was no longer contained within its walls. It had begun to take root in her own thoughts, sowing confusion that grew deeper each night. Anna's waking hours grew slippery, each one bleeding into the next. She would pause in the hallway, sure she had just heard her name whispered, only to find herself alone, heart racing. She forgot appointments and misplaced her keys, sometimes discovering herself at the door of room 209 with no memory of walking there. The glow of the call button, once sharp and distinct, now seemed to pulse at the edge of her vision, even when she looked away. Anna wondered if she was seeing things that weren't there, or if reality itself was slipping out of her tired grip. Shadows on the walls sometimes moved with a subtle life of their own, reshaping into forms she half remembered from dreams. Some nights, Anna struggled to remember if she had actually answered the bell, or if she had only dreamed it. She stared at her notes, finding scribbles that made no sense, words that seemed foreign, lines she didn't recall writing. The air in the hallways felt thick with anticipation, and she often hesitated before entering 209, unsure if she was entering a real place or stepping into the space of her own restless mind. The hospital and her nightmares had merged into a world where time bent and reason faltered, where Anna no longer trusted her own senses. Each shift left her feeling more lost, wondering whether the boundary between dream and waking had faded for good. One evening, while Anna sat alone at her station, an old memory surfaced from deep inside her tired mind, the face of a patient she had once cared for in room 209. The details blurred at first, but slowly sharpened around the edges. He was an older man, quiet, with sunken eyes that watched the world, as if waiting for something that never arrived. Night after night, Anna remembered, he pressed his call button, asking for simple comforts. A glass of water, a small talk, a word to ease the fear in his eyes. It wasn't unusual, but there was something about the way he clung to those moments, his voice trembling as if he dreaded being alone more than any pain he felt. The memory grew cloudy, fragments drifting out of reach just as Anna tried to grasp them. She recalled the day the bed in 209 went empty, sheets stripped and folded tight. Was it a peaceful passing or an abrupt emergency? She couldn't say for sure. The chart, the final paperwork, they might still be in storage or lost to time. Yet the feeling of unfinished business lingered, woven into the quiet despair that seemed to haunt the room ever since. Anna wondered if some trace of that patient remained, a need that refused to let go, drawing her back night after night to answer a call that would never end. With each shift, Anna grew more certain that something inside the hospital was guiding her actions. Small choices felt less like her own. She found herself pausing at doorways, drawn to specific routines at odd hours, as if a silent hand nudged her down hallways she wouldn't have otherwise taken. Lights flickered on at her approach, and doors seemed to breathe open or closed in response to her presence. At times, Anna would pick up her pen to start patient notes, only to find she'd written the number 209 over and over, unaware her mind had wandered. She felt watched, not just by someone, but by the hospital itself, endless and restless, quietly steering her. A sense of unease took root, winding past any comfort her work once gave her. The hospital's walls, once just dull and familiar, seemed to tighten and shift, pressing Anna onward. Some nights she tried to break the pattern, refusing to enter 209 or walk a certain route, yet always ended up there, as if fate or something stronger bent reality just for her. Anna wondered if she was losing herself, if this unseeable force had quietly taken hold of her thoughts, weaving them into the endless call and response with room 209. No matter what she tried, Anna felt guided, if not trapped, by something she could not name, and no longer trusted her own choices. Anna reached a breaking point. The weight of endless questions and uneasy nights settled on her shoulders until one shift, she made a decision she could not shake. She told herself she would not run from the hallway or jump at shadows anymore. As midnight approached, Anna gathered a notebook, her phone for company, and quietly made her way to room 209. She turned the handle and stepped inside, seating herself in the hard-back chair by the window. The hallway behind her faded as she shut the door, closing herself off from the rest of the hospital. Anna turned off the main light, letting the greenish glow of the corridor spill under the door. She would watch, listen, and wait. Time crawled by, marked by the ticking of her wristwatch and the distant sounds of machines from other rooms. Anna kept her breathing steady, notebook balanced on her lap, scribbling every detail, the shiver in the air, slight noises from overhead pipes, the way the shadows on the far wall seemed to lengthen and bend. The red eye of the call button watched her in the darkness, silent, but expectant. Anna refused to look away or leave her seat. If there was something hiding in this room, she wanted it to show itself. She braced herself, determined to face the mystery until morning broke, even if it meant learning answers she could never explain. In the deep hush of night, Anna sat unmoving in the chair, senses sharpened by fear and purpose. At first, the silence felt ordinary, just the hum of vents and the tick of her watch. Then, soft footsteps echoed across the floor behind her, stopping when she did not turn. Low voices drifted past her ear, too quiet to understand, like pieces of old conversations layered over each other. The air grew colder, the darkness in the corner thickening until Anna thought she saw the outline of someone standing by the bed. She blinked, but the figure melted back into shadow, leaving the room tense with expectation. Anna's throat dried, but she forced herself to pick up her pen and keep writing, refusing to let panic claim her. As the hours dragged on, the line between reality and dream blurred completely. Sometimes, Anna felt a gentle tug on her sleeve, as if someone reached out for comfort. Shadows slipped along the walls, changing shape with every glance. At one point, Anna heard her own name whispered from the direction of the window, spoken in the voice of someone long gone. Each sound and sight was impossible to hold on to. A flicker at the edge of vision, a note that vanished on the air. Anna was never sure if she was awake or struggling inside another dream, but the weight of a presence grew unmistakable. By dawn, the room was empty again, but its secrets pressed harder than ever, leaving Anna shaken and uncertain of what she had truly witnessed. After that night, Anna could not escape the feeling that something vital inside her had changed. Simple routines became burdens. Her hands trembled during medication rounds, and her heart raced at the smallest sounds: an elevator bell, A cough from down the hall, the distant rattle of a cart. The hospital, once a place of order, now felt unsafe and unpredictable. Anna jumped at her own reflection, looking for movement in corners and shadows where none belonged. Rest came only in short, uneasy bursts. When she closed her eyes, she saw the watchful red glow of 209's call button, and heard her name whispered gently, insistently, as if from just behind the next door. Her anxiety deepened with each passing day. Anna worried that her colleagues noticed the difference in her distracted silence, the way she flinched away from room numbers on patient charts, how she lingered longer in the break room before daring to walk the halls. Sometimes she wondered if she had somehow invited the strangeness in, or if it was rooted in her all along. Even outside work, Anna felt haunted, carrying the cold presence of the empty room everywhere. She moved through her shifts like a ghost herself, unable to shake the suspicion that some unseen force followed her steps, and that the hospital had changed her in ways no one could see. Feeling trapped by her own anxiety, Anna finally reached out for help. She scheduled an appointment with the hospital counselor and sat rigid in the quiet office, trying to find the right words. Anna spoke of her exhaustion, the dreams, the call button, and the strange sense that she was not alone in her rounds. She hoped for understanding, or at least some relief from the heavy fear she carried through each shift. The counselor listened closely, asking gentle questions, jotting notes, and recommending time off to rest. Anna wanted to believe rest would help, but she felt a different kind of worry growing, one that wondered if her story sounded more like a confession of weakness than a cry for help. Anna also reported her experiences to the shift supervisor, sharing her notebook full of dates, times, and unsettling details. The supervisor reviewed the records, nodding with polite concern, but quickly pointed to technical malfunctions, maybe a faulty circuit, or stress playing tricks on a tired mind. Hospitals are strange places at night, she was told. No one doubted that Anna believed what she described, but nobody seemed ready to consider that something unexplainable might be at work. Anna left both meetings with little comfort, burdened by the silence in her words and the knowledge that, even after asking for help, she was truly alone in her fear. A week later, Anna sat in the hospital archives, determined to search for answers on her own. Dust-coated folders lined the shelves, patient records stacked thick from years past. She sifted through files, marked with familiar names and room numbers, until she found the records for 209. Her breath caught as she opened a folder labeled with the older man's name. Notes described a long stay, anxious nights, repeated requests for company, and notations about a failing heart. As Anna read further, she found reports of the call button ringing throughout the night, just as it had for her. There was a final entry in the file, one that had always been missing from her memory. Patient died overnight. Staff present at time of death. Anna L. Shock washed over her. She stared at her own signature, shaky and uncertain at the bottom of the page. Flashes of memory returned. The man's last words, the quiet pain in his eyes as he reached for her hand, the stillness that followed. Anna finally understood why room 209 never let her go. Perhaps the repeated calls, the restless shadows, all came from a need she had never fully released or understood. The truth didn't bring peace, only a deep ache, a reminder that some rooms keep their stories, and that the past sometimes lingers quietly, waiting to be seen. After the discovery in the archives, Anna felt her grip on reality loosen even more. Each night she wondered if exhaustion or guilt had shaped the haunting in room 209, or if she'd truly glimpsed something beyond reason, something left behind by sorrow and nights spent in fear. She searched for answers in every shadow, weighing the cold logic of broken wiring against the softer mysteries of memory and regret. The hospital returned to its usual pace around her, but Anna saw it differently now. Even during the day, when light filled the halls, she caught herself staring toward 209, listening for quiet echoes, knowing she would never hear a clear explanation. Anna's thoughts circled endlessly as she worked her shifts. She questioned the blurry memories, the unexplained events, her own role in it all. Was she unraveling beneath the pressure, making sense of grief in the only way her tired mind could? Or did she stand at the thin edge of something truly unknown? Anna kept her questions close, careful with each step and word, but she never fully recovered her sense of peace. Room 209 faded back into the shadows, secretive as ever, while Anna carried its silence within her, never fully sure if what she experienced was a waking nightmare, or if the hospital itself sometimes remembered more than it should.